Hello, Beatball World. Welcome back to the Beatball Blues Show. I am the captain of this ship, Neil DAWG, and along with me, I have the most powerful man in beat baseball history, Seth Bam Bam Clark. Welcome in, Seth Dog.
What's going on, Neil? I got distracted at the. Somebody said something here at the house. Hello, Beatball.
That's our original show. It's like K-Phone. You know what's cool about you calling it K-Phone? It makes us sound like we actually had a radio show before.
Yeah, right.
We did do a show on K-Phone. KFON. Can't find any history of it anywhere.
Yeah, right. It's all been lost. All been lost to history, but so many things have been lost to history here. We're making new history, Neil Dog.
Yeah, right.
We forge forward.
We have the largest ensemble that we have had since the beginning of the show so far. So I'm just going to start running down the names. What we are going to be doing here, it kind of ties it just a tiny bit into the previous show where we talked about adding the seventh player. I mentioned way back when I had Lex Gillette on the show the first time that I'd love to have a show, get Glenn Permar on here and some other people from Carolina and talk about the Carolina leagues, because the people in the NBBA, they just know rumors and stories, and half the things they hear about the Carolina leagues aren't correct. But where I thought it'd be a good turn to go with it this week is when we were talking about the seventh player, and the most resistance I hear, Seth, to that is the safety issue. It's more dangerous, whatever. But man, Carolina from the beginning, they played with seven players. So in addition,
but
go ahead.
But they never were any good. So.
Okay.
I mean, Carolina came to our tournament and they got blown out, pushed around, and loser bracketed. So, perhaps when you're only moving 5 feet from side to side, you can stack seven players out there. But
it's unfair to launch.
Moving, okay, when you're actually moving and going places, it might be a little harder. I love it.
Wait a minute, but then hey, wait a minute.
I'm just gonna say
you can't talk yet.
Yes, I can.
It's unfair to launch. It's unfair to launch your attack before we even bring them in.
They can't even talk yet. Silence. Silence.
Cut to the edge.
Lex doesn't even know about the year you're talking about. I was going to bring that up, though. We're going to talk about 1992. We're going to talk about everything with this group. But let me introduce our panel, starting with the first North Carolina player out of these players and coaches that came in, if we could call Greg Parra a coach, for God's sakes. But the first that ever got into the NBBA out of this group, Mr. Glenn Permar. Following that was Mr. Greg Parra. After that, I thought it was going to be Ricky Scott, but I don't think Ricky joined us. So for there, we got to jump to Mr. Lex Gillette. Did I skip over anybody? I did not. And then wrap it up with Jason Ackiss and Wali. Say your last name. I forgot it already.
Did I suggest Wali S? I'm sorry. Did I suggest?
Yeah, Wali S. Wali S, everybody. Big round of applause. Welcome in, everybody. Lex, what was so important that you had to interrupt our introduction? What you got?
No, because he was spitting all that blasphemy.
Yeah. Ain't nobody. Last time I looked at the top 10 list of finishers, I've never seen Carolina anywhere near there.
No, that's not true. The Warriors.
That's not true, sir.
The Warriors finished 6th back in.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
6?
Yeah.
I stand corrected. Sorry.
Yeah.
Back then, the 6th. I'm sorry. You're right.
Lex doesn't. What you were referring to, though, that goes back before Lex. So bring Glenn and Greg into this story to go back, because the very first North Carolina team that ever came to the World Series was in 1992. And it was a team. What was the name of that team? Glenn, Greensboro, something?
You say it was in what year?
1992.
Yeah, that was the Greensboro team.
Right. What were they called? Greensboro what? Do you know? You remember.
Like, shit, that was like 80 years ago.
Yeah.
Fair enough. But
I think it was called the Greensboro Cyclones or something like that.
All right. Fair enough.
They made us come up with a different name to go play in the World Series.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, they did.
Hey, the Greensboro barbecue bracket.
Well, wait, they made it to the championship round. So the North Carolina people made it go by a different name, or the NBBA?
Oh, the North Carolina group.
Oh, okay. I was going to say the NBBA's never had any. They don't tell people what to name their team.
The reason they wanted us to name it a different name was that we first started out planning to take people from other teams.
Oh, I got you.
But when the other people found out that their way wasn't going to be fully paid, then nobody went except the Greensboro team.
So
just like blind folk, boy.
Yeah. Let's start talking about that money.
So I have a Sacramento Thrashers jersey on, and that's a team Greg Parra and I started out together. First team, I started with the Thrashers when it first started building in 1986, and then Greg came along in 1987 and was our pitcher for 4 years, and then he moved to North Carolina. And I was able to get him some names to reach out, and that's how he ended up in your league. But so he's telling me he got into the Carolina League in like 1991, and he's telling me about this Greensboro team. They at that point, when you guys came to the World Series in 1992, you guys had been undefeated for like 5 years. You guys were like 50-0 against North and South Carolina teams, just dominating. There were times, because even though your league place was 7, I remember Greg telling me about, because you guys, like, if you played with 5 or 6 instead of 7, that player missing didn't count as a automatic out, right?
That's
you
right.
Bat around. Yeah. So in that case, Greg told me about games where you guys would just play with 5 and still just blow teams out back there.
We actually won a tournament here in Durham and ended up playing with 4 players in the championship game.
So Greg tells me about this team for a couple years, and they're coming to the World Series. And I remember when this was before you and Greg knew each other and played together, but Greg was going over to that team when Raleigh played them. And Offrey's like, hey, I know the NBBA rules. If there's anything, I know people out there, whatever, if you want some help getting ready. And Greg said they just brushed him off, totally arrogant. Like, nah, we're good. We 50-0. We don't need you or anybody else. Man, their first game in 1992 was the team Seth and I was with, the East Bay Blaze. And at the end of the 3rd inning, we were up 29-6. We had them in a 12-run rule before they knew what the NBBA was. Now, they bounced back from that, and you guys did finish like 7th, I think, in that tournament. But, man, that's why Seth opened with what he did, because, man, I was telling these guys, my teammates on the Blaze, about this team we're going to be facing and blah, blah, blah. And Greg been going on for years, about how good they are, man. And we just blasted them, and you know what? It made Greg happy. He didn't like your team too much. Greg, dog, you remember all that? You go talk? You go say something?
Did Greg pitch for that team in the World Series?
No,
No,
We didn't go
that
to the
was
World
Wali.
Series.
Yeah.
Okay.
The only time Greg was in Carolina by this time. That's why I played with the Blaze, and before that the North Bay Nemesis. Because my Thrashers team, the only time we ever made it to the World Series was in 1993, and really it wasn't even the Thrashers anymore. It was more the beginning of the Dogs in the end.
So when it was the East Bay Blaze and you beat the Greensboro team, Greg wasn't pitching for Greensboro.
What was your pitcher name?
No.
Lee or something? Nah.
Lonnie
Kermit.
Cunningham.
Oh, I heard about I wanted to meet Lonnie because he was like the GOAT apparently before Moses came.
Yeah,
along.
Lonnie was a good pitcher.
Yeah, Lonnie Cunningham.
Six home runs. No.
Listen to this guy.
I know, right? And he won't stop either. It started early. This is going to be the Carolina roast. That'll probably be the title of the show, or the Greg roast. I'll go back.
Grounder Greg.
So, Glenn and Greg, Lex.
Grounder Greg. Grounder Greg.
I was waiting for the bot bud to show up too. You remember the bot bud?
Oh yeah, no, we've talked about it on this show. I think it was with Jason Woodard, or maybe either Jason Woodard or Fonzie from Houston. I had they had a name for like hitting the bottom of the bat, and I was like, we put more like I don't know, like an overseas sound to it, Bataba. they just called it bot or I can't remember what it was, but well, I guess we aren't the only team that gets on the pitcher for helping us hit ground balls. But why don't you guys and Jason, jump in and help these guys? Tell us about the Carolina leagues, North and South Carolina, both states that tied together for this league. Glenn told me, I believe the other night, it started back in 1970. One thing I remember is because it was tied into the schools for the blind and the deaf. You guys played with people who are hard of hearing also. So man, tell the NBBA about this league, fellas.
Well, I don't know about that part about playing the people that were hard of hearing.
Isn't that well?
Beat ball with deaf people, man.
It was explained. It was explained to me.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
No,
it was explained to me that's why, because if somebody wants to, they could have somebody stand out at the base if it isn't buzzing loud enough and clap and go here. And when I was out there, somebody at that tournament told me that's why they told me that rule came in.
That part is true. We had a few people that were hard of hearing and they wanted to play, so they made that exception.
Okay.
Of course, then it kind of, how people take advantage of things. There were some people that really didn't need that were doing it, and of course it distracted the people in the field when they're standing at the base hollering here. You can't hear the damn ball. But there weren't really that many people, and it didn't have anything to do with the deaf blind school.
Okay, good. Thank you for straightening me out on that. I went out there a couple times for tournaments. I was supposed to play with you guys in one of them, and they wouldn't let me. But
Hold on. So you guys were supposed to tell us about the Carolina League. All right, so tell us about the Carolina.
They are.
You are telling us about the Carolina League.
I'm not.
If you and I wanted to do this show, we could. We don't need them. We could just make jokes about the Carolina team all the time.
I just wanted to point out at that tournament, it wasn't until about 3-4 games in before I even heard that. So it's not something that is used a lot. I just wanted to echo that. But also point out, I want to point out that Greg looked over to me the first time I heard it, saw my face. He's like, different, right? Like, yeah, it is.
You in the South now, boy. But go ahead.
Yeah.
What about the Carolinas? Tell us about the Carolinas.
Self doesn't like the gradual build up, man.
It takes away from his time to point out that you guys all suck.
Anyway,
I mean, Glenn can tell. Yeah, go ahead, Glenn. Sorry.
To go from the start, I said that the beat ball here started in 1970. It may have been 71. I played my first year in 72.
Okay. Wow.
And before that, they really didn't even have an organized team. I know they were doing it 1 year before I started playing. We played a bunch of teams like church teams and stuff like that just to have somebody to play. Then as time went on, teams came in like Charlotte, Raleigh, Winston-Salem, High Point. And there was a time that we had 9 or 10 teams in the 2 states. And of course, there was really 2 teams in South Carolina. So we probably had 7 or 8 here in North Carolina. And now they do good to piece 1 team together. But
so when you say y'all played church teams, was that they were churches that had visually impaired players? Or?
No, just like church softball or baseball teams that just wanted to do it for the fun of it.
A lot of teams do that. A lot of teams do that when they're starting out, just like exhibition games, really with anybody. You know, you try to get the media out, just try to get your team going, get the word out.
Yeah. But we really started playing in 72 when we had another team to play, and I'm pretty sure that was the Charlotte team. The Telephone Pioneers here in North Carolina were really the ones that pretty much sponsored beat ball from the start. They were making the balls, they were making bases. And when we first started playing, we were playing with those rubber cone things like they put out on the highway.
That's funny. Our Thrashers team had that for a bait.
Oh yeah.
But we only had it on one side though. We had one of those. It had a buzzer on it, right?
Yeah, it had a buzzer, but you had to have people at each base to turn the base on. It had a toggle switch.
When we started the Thrashers, Glenn, we had one of those on one base and a pipe hand and a spoon at the other one. Those are our 2 bases.
Well, when we first started, we had 3 bases. One was like behind the catcher.
Okay.
And then
we should point out too that you guys are 30 feet off the baseline compared to the NBBA being 10 feet off.
But the bases weren't that far from home plate at that time either. I think we started out at like 45 feet.
But man,
when you ran,
I could hit 500 with that.
But when you ran to the base, you had to turn the base off. And the problem with that was those rubber cones would sit out in the sun, and when you touch it, it would just like fold up, and then you couldn't find the switch to turn it off. But
tell people about the bases.
You guys played with flat bases.
Yeah, tell people about the bases that you moved on to. A lot of people showed interest in the flat.
I was going to say we moved on to these. Somebody made bases out of plywood. It was 2 pieces of plywood stacked on top of each other, and it had I think it had springs between them. So whenever you hit the top of it or put weight on it, it would short the buzzer out and stop it from beeping. But then even a little later on, we got the bases that were kind of like a regular baseball base, and they had cut the middle out, put a speaker in it, and they had a central control box that they could turn either base on or off. And it worked really well. I mean, I liked the fact that they went off when you touched them. You didn't have to have somebody there to say, base or whatever.
Yeah, because that's a big difference between the NBBA and the Carolina rules. Like the play wasn't over offensively until you turn the base off, correct? There's no umpire calling out or safe on that. If you don't get the base turned off, it doesn't matter how far you hit it. It's a run, right?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
unless it was unless it was, obvious it was a malfunctioning base. I mean,
Yeah,
if you were,
I was
okay.
gonna say yeah, because there were plenty of times that I would be like standing there banging the bass on the ground and
Yeah.
it's still not going off.
yeah.
I gotta ask this.
Yeah, a couple.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Chris.
I would say with Lex, it was just funny because there were a couple times on base where it was like he would get there so soon. You're right, and that they hadn't gotten the ball yet, and he was standing there with the base, holding it above his head because it hadn't shut off. Instead, most people were just banging on it on the ground. You want to make sure they knew he was at the base.
That is funny.
I bet Lex running a 45-foot base.
Bruh. Hey.
He wasn't even.
That's
he wasn't
two
even
jumps.
born when
1,000.
that was
Bro,
going.
1,000. I'm batting 1,000.
How long did it take before you moved it out?
Oh, it wasn't very long. After we got 3 or 4 teams, they started moving the bases out. I think it went from 45 to 60 and then to 75. And I think we put it out to 90 at one time and then to 100 feet.
All right.
And the one thing about those cone bases, though, I don't know if you remember this, Glenn, the stories I heard, because it was before I got into the league, but at first he had to run to it and stop at the base and then find the switch and flip it off. But over time, people figured out they could maintain their speed if they could run by at full speed and just scoop it and run with it because there was no cord attached to it. They just scoop it and run with it and then flip it off like while they were holding it and still slow it down. And so then they realized. Yeah.
I usually just tried to grab the top of it and pick it up and slide my hand down the side of it and hit the switch.
And that was a story I always heard is that they started looking at other bases because then it was like, people were scoring more runs because they were, using their speed, whereas before you had to actually stop or find the base and reach down and flip it off. And then people realized like, we can grab it and run with it because there's no cord and just turn it off as we're running with it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But you had to have people at each base to actually flip that switch on. And then, of course, they had to get out of the way right quick or they would get killed.
I told them I would, the original home of this show and where the audience of this show really comes from is in a Facebook group called Beatball Nation. And I believe, I don't know if I'm right about this, I think Richard Schultz, who plays for the Chicago Comments, started the group. He's an admin for the group. I think he started the group or was one of the few that started it. Anyways, he would love to know like what happened to those bases. It sounds like he'd love to get his hands on one. If like after the show, if there's a way you could guide me towards that, Glenn or anybody else, we'll do that. But a question on the bases. Didn't you guys switch to the NBBA style bases by the end of the league?
Yes. Yeah, we did. We 2009, 10-ish, couple years in, we did. So, we ended up with NBBA.
That's the voice of Jason Ackiss. We haven't been able to sneak him in too much yet, but one reason I wanted you and Glenn, because I look at Glenn kind of as the one who out of this group that started bringing Carolina to the NBBA, and you as the leader of the Carolina Warriors, the most recent Carolina team that went to the NBBA. Was that like the end of it or whatever. So I was glad you were able to jump in here, Jason. When did you actually find the Carolina Leagues? Because you jumped in later in life, am I right?
I didn't start playing ball till we about had our first kid. So I missed 7-8 good years where I could have played ball, but I didn't. 2007, Chris Johnson, who was one of the leaders of the Charlotte team, owned a bar in downtown Charlotte. So would see me walking by as I was going to and from work. And would yell, hey, and find out and tell me about ball. And so finally I went out. I knew about it because I knew Wali. I've known Wali for forever. So finally just went and joined. So, but later in life.
Both North and South Carolina it kind of reminds me of kind of like excuse me, the Texas beat ball group. Like everybody knows everybody. I noticed
Yes.
when I went out there a few times, everybody knew everybody. Wally, who's the only one out of all of us still playing, a member of the New Jersey Titans, a group we had on not too far back. First off, Wally, I want to say, man, you play with a fun group of dudes. That was one of the more fun shows. Seth and I both agreed when it was over. We had a lot of fun. But I was like, how long you been around?
Man, I've been playing beat ball since I was 16 years old, and you know, I started off with the Charlotte team. Actually, a fun fact about that is we were the original Charlotte Hornets before the NBA team started. You know, playing ball in Charlotte, and then
how old are you now, so we can place that 16? You sound like such a young man. You could have just started last week. You know?
No,
you turned to be 17 right now. So.
Hey man, I appreciate that, man. I'm gonna be 42 in January.
Oh man, you still got years ahead of you.
You got a while to go to catch me, Wally.
Yeah, right.
Hey Glenn, I might can get you in a foot race now, man.
But yeah, how do you like playing with them Titans? That's a fun group of dudes, right?
Man, you know, I mean, you know, the thing I love about the Titans is, you know, they got the same kind of mentality like, you know, we used to have in the North Carolina, South Carolina league where, you know, it's just, you know, it's not ball, it's about family and just, you know, man, you know, forget the X's and O's, just go out there and play, you know.
Right.
Forget the X's
You know what they say.
What kind of strategy is that? Forget the X's and O's.
Teams that talk like that usually the ones getting banged on.
And Seth Dog has a partner.
Hey, but going back to the bases though, because when I had first started, when I had played in the Carolina League and excuse me, would run and hit the bag and stuff like that, there were times where you didn't have anybody at the base like you do in the NBBA. So sometimes people would run down to those bases, hit them, and sometimes other people would run and they would like unplug it. And so if you didn't have anyone down there at the bag to see that, then
count that as a run.
No, and they would count it as a run sometimes without them ever even touching the bag. And then you would be dependent on people on the sideline from the like the benches and stuff like that. Oh, he didn't touch the bag. He didn't touch the bag. You don't know if any of those people could see, if they could not see. Like, I'm like, man, we need to. You go to the World Series and there's a person at the bag and they can confirm, okay, this person actually touched the base. Versus in our league, it's like, all right, sometimes they'll hit it and it'll go off, and sometimes they just yank the cord out without even touching the bag. So I know that was one of the things that I had appreciated. And the other thing too that I noticed that was different is in the Carolina League, like Neil was mentioning, everybody knows everybody. So when you're batting and in the field and stuff like that, they'll be talking to you as if you're like y'all are like buddy right now, like on Charlotte's team, Wally. What's my man Barney? Barney played.
Barney Fleming. That dude played with the Dogs.
With us for a little bit.
Yeah.
He played like the up front position, and so you're up there swinging and trying to hit the ball and stuff like that. And he's like, "Oh, come on, Lex! I got a hot dog for you with chili and cheese on it. Hit the ball to me." I'm like, man, come on! But you go to the World Series, and it's literally like it's a totally different environment. Like it's all game.
Man, you brought up Barney. I gotta tell this story. In 2007, we made the championship game, and that's when it rained cats and dogs the entire day. And it
was cold.
Oh yeah, very cold. Like, oh yeah. No, that was the coldest day I ever spent during the summer in my life. But we had to play. We had to play the morning. Remember, because that was the last year of the tournament being 4 days, and the reason it had to be moved to 5 is because under the new format, it was just hard to get all the games in. So the team coming up through the losers bracket had to play the 3rd place game in the morning on Saturday, then go to the championship game. And so we've been out there all day. We won the morning game, and we're trying to win the championship, and we are out there in the rain all day, just cold, whatever. And Don puts Barney in like the 5th inning of the championship game. Man, it's kind of decided. We just didn't have enough punch to get over the top. Barney comes in, it's still raining, and out in short right field where we put him, there's a big old puddle. That dude laid down in that puddle and rolled around. He said he wanted to be wet and cold like his teammates. He rolled around in a cold puddle, man. It was crazy.
It was crazy.
The other part of that, the other information, basically all that left before.
God, stop. Nobody can understand what you're saying. You got the worst connection.
I think, yeah.
That was me. I'm
Stop
like, damn, my
moving.
connection's bad.
I'm gonna try to fill it.
Try it again.
Okay. Well, what happened was that stand underneath the tent between them, and he wanted the rain to pour on his head so he'd get wet. And we tried to move him because he got mad at us, and I told him to leave him alone.
Yeah. I'm gonna fill in. I'm gonna fill it in.
I'm sorry. I should have just let you to begin with.
Yeah, let me paint the picture for you, because we were all out there. Neil is right. We all were out there. It's raining hard as all get out. It's probably 60 some odd degrees outside. We're in Rochester, Minnesota, right? Was it Rochester?
Yep.
We were in
Oh,
Rochester,
let me just say this. It was a lot harder sitting in the on the freaking bench out there I almost cussed, in the freaking rain. So, probably near river.
Anyway, so we're standing out there. It's raining like crazy. It's wet in the field. Kansas is banging out runs and stuff like that. Barney is on the bench. He's dry, no grass stains, no nothing, and it's raining. So what Greg was saying was, like, before he even came into the game, he would stand on the side of the tent and let the water run off the tent into his head. And then, like, to double down on it, when Don put him into the game, he was out there, whatever he was doing.
It was a puddle, dude. It was a hole. He laid in a hole and rolled around. It was crazy. It was crazy. So let me ask all of you guys to judge. Well, probably everybody but Greg, since he pays 10 cents a month for his internet.
Don't let him get you, Greg. Don't let him get you.
Sighted people can't afford no internet connection, apparently. Them government jobs, boy. But so since this conversation with the 7 players has come up, and all of you have played both with 7 players and 6, haven't played both, do any of you have any do you agree with the argument that adding a player in the NBBA adds a dangerous element to? What are you guys' thoughts on the NBBA adding a 7th player? Why don't you jump in, Jason? I won't let you go first. You've been quiet.
Well, I can't get a word in. So I appreciate you calling on me. No, you know what? So somebody mentioned Alan, about the safety thing. If you are coordinated in your defense, no, I think it's perfectly fine. I know one of the reasons I've heard, and I missed your show last week, I apologize, so it may have come up, was fielding a team. Some teams really have trouble getting enough players, and so that's a legit reason. You don't want to exclude anybody, because as the Warriors, especially towards the end, we had 7 players. So we were rolling in there.
Honestly,
nobody complained. Yeah, nobody complained about playing time because everybody played. You could not play. But safety, if you coordinate, like I never had any issues with it. So I don't. I'll let some of the other guys speak. I never. We weren't stomping all over each other. If that was the concern.
Yeah. I mean, it's not my concern. I've always felt like it would, at least in the defenses. Sorry, I got distracted by my. We lost somebody
Yeah,
that just came back. But
Greg got on. You punked him out of his computer so he got on his phone.
He got on a real phone.
He probably turned the video off while he cried a little bit. I haven't made him cry in a while.
Hey, well, what do you got? What Lex or one of you guys that have? I mean, what do you guys think the effect of adding a seventh player onto an NBBA into the NBBA? You know, outside of the safety thing, outside of the fielding players team. I mean, is that a rule that you think would be helpful for dropping the scores by making the defense better? Or do you think, since you guys have played with 7, that it's just it's not that big of a difference?
I don't think it would
make a difference.
Yeah, I don't think it'll make that much of a difference. And you know, it would make you, able to do more exotic things on defense, but it really wouldn't make that much of a difference, adding one more person on the field, since the field is bigger than the North Carolina field was that we played on. So we had 7 players on a smaller field, and it never was a safety issue or anything like that with speed.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's kind of kind of funny here, because we're talking about it being less safe with 7 people on the field. But the worst I ever got hurt was that year that we came to the World Series, and I was in the field, and Paul Washington dived for the ball and hit me in the side of my knee and put me out of the game. Actually, about put me out of the tournament.
I remembered one of the players getting hurt from 2 players crashing into each other, but I never knew that was you until right now.
Yeah, it was me.
Yeah.
I mean, is the rule confirmed there are going to be 7?
No. It's never even. Danny Fabiano actually has submitted the rule twice over the last 17, 18 years, 15 years. And it's been shot down both times. But what I noticed, it came up actually. We had Timmy on the show, Tim Hibner on the show a few weeks ago, and it kind of came out with our conversation with Tim, and then that's when we invited Danny to come on, since he had submitted the rule, and talk about it in more depth. But it's never really gotten a lot of legs. But I started noticing, because it provoked. In Beat Ball Nation, it provoked quite a bit of conversation, which was cool, because this show this is only the second time, Seth, I think, we provoked any kind of conversation from a show we did. But there was a lot.
Well, if you would let us talk about the election, I'm sure we could provoke a whole bunch of more discussions. But
wrong crowd if we're gonna keep an audience. So. Since it provoked the majority of the conversation I'm seeing, and I agree with what Jason said, my strongest opposition to it has only been numbers, as far as that cutting out players that are short on players. Outside of that, I don't see a problem with it, but I'm surprised that the majority of the resistance seems to be traffic and clogging things up. And
that's funny to me. I think, and the reason I point that out is because, to your point, I wouldn't want anybody to be excluded because they don't have enough players.
Yeah.
But I also feel like, in my experience, a lot of people do have, I don't know, I'll just say 10 players or whatnot. I feel like it could certainly increase the participation. But in terms of the safety aspect of it, that's odd to me, because like the best teams, I feel like, are able to maneuver out there in the field effectively and safely. And if you're communicating with your other players out there on the field, then and you have different schemes and things like that, then I feel like you should be able to do what you need to do safely without hurting anybody.
Yeah, see, and I feel that comes down to whether you have 5 players, 7, 8, well, you know what I mean? You have to learn that no matter how many players.
Right.
Greg, I want to ask you. Go ahead. I got a
that's what I saw
question.
in the Carolina. Oh, yeah, what I saw in the Carolina League when I first went there was, exactly what you're describing is like people, they figure it out because like you're used to playing with that many, so you space people out or you have a different spacing set up. But the one thing that was interesting, that going back to the history of it, is the way it was explained to me, because we would actually have to mark the zones on our field like a pie slice, like 1 through 7.
Right.
But because originally when the league was set up, is everybody had to stay. You had to stay in your section. Like 1 could only stay in 1, and 2 could only stay in 2, and then that went away. But that's originally how it was set up. And then going out to the bases, the other thing that was amazing to me was like they're 35 feet off the line, so the angle coming out of the box is so much different. And,
Hang a Louie.
Lex and I talked about this the first time I had Lex on the show, but just to refresh it, and what Greg's talking about, like they painted every single field that every team played on exactly the same, and they would paint 7 zones and number them, put numbers from 1 to 7 going from first base to third base. Something we should point out along those lines is that, because it's crazy different from NBBA rules, is they in the Carolinas they play with spotters, or they call them callers. Did you call them callers a lot of times?
Both, but I mean, because people would. So
I think actually, thing, I'm remembering now is more inappropriate thing that Raleigh team had two women spotters, and they called them call girls. That's what I was thinking of.
That's right.
But the spotters can change their call. When in the NBBA, you call one number and one number only, and if you do anything different than that, it's an automatic run for the offense. But in the Carolinas, man, if it's like going right between 2 of those painted zones, they could be like 3-4-3.
So was it all? I mean, in the last years of the Carolina League, were there still the 7 zones painted out like that, or was that always?
But people didn't have to, like, you could call those zones, but you didn't have to put the people in the zone. Like, you could set up your field however you wanted to. I mean, that was like back originally when they were thinking of safety, and they wanted people. They thought like blind people couldn't like do that without slamming into each other, so they tried to do it for safety, and everybody had to stay in their little spot.
That's exactly where the NBBA came from too, because the original game of beat ball that blind people were finding back then outside of the Carolinas also had a lot of like baby boo rules to keep everybody, blind people, from getting hurt. And finally some, our founding fathers, the John Rosses and Jim Quinns of the world, said, you know what, we're not going to do this anymore, and that's when they started the NBBA.
And they could also, the callers could, when you talk about safety, they would, if 2 players were on the cusp of like knocking each other out, they would stop. And sometimes, again, I think Glenn had mentioned it earlier when you were talking about the person who could stand at the base and yell here, here, here for someone who was hard of hearing. I'm pretty sure we had some spotters who may have been on the cusp of like yelling so loud to the point of like trying to interfere with the base runner too.
Yeah, I got you.
And so the other thing, and then the other thing,
you might have turned your head a little more to the side than you usually would, but sometimes.
Hey, cheat, you ain't trying, man.
My favorite Carolina rule of all is the pinch hitter rule, though. I'm sorry, the runner. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I was going to say, because it's funny, because as you guys are dribbling out all these, because I don't know anything about the Carolina League, right? Shocking. I don't have a really good picture of all these different rules that you guys are coming out very slowly. So I had totally forgotten about the pinch runner thing, but
Yeah, the
as
runner,
you keep
man, hey,
going, it can pay
a runner rule, bro. The runner rule, bro. That was gold because there were a couple times when Glenn was hurt. There was a couple times when we had another player, Albert, and these are two guys who they get a hold of the ball, it's gone. So they smash the ball. I'm in the runner circle, bap, hit the ball. By the time I don't even think it touches the ground. I'm already at the bag. I'm like 18, 17, 18 years old at this point. So whoever needed a runner, there were like 2 or 3 guys who were the designated runners on these teams, if you will. They were always the fastest
But
guys.
the same person couldn't run for more than one person, though.
Right.
I thought they could, but I mean, Lex could start and play for himself and still run for one other.
Oh yeah, he can.
But I couldn't run for 2 different people though.
Right, you couldn't run for the whole lineup. Or
I from being out there, I remembered you running twice a lot because Ricky Scott's lazy ass wasn't running.
Oh yeah.
But I just remember you running twice. So.
Yeah, the other thing about the pinch runner rule that got like really like dicey was they would line up behind the catcher, you know, that's where they had to stand. And so depending on who you had back there and how good they were or how crazy they were, like you could get your catcher freight trained. I mean, that would happen a lot where they would just like
not only
so the catcher had to concentrate on catching the ball coming in, but if you got hit, they had to run forward with the batter.
Yeah.
They had to run forward with the batter so you wouldn't get like smashed by the person behind the plate.
You were either going to knock out the catcher or you were going to be in somebody's bench area. Like you had to be
Greg, are those your animals in the background?
That's just one. Yeah, it's Arthur.
Sound like you're like at the pet cemetery over there. So not the
at the pet cemetery.
Yeah. You sound like there's a kennel going on in the background.
Yeah, he's going crazy. But no, the other thing that was an interesting rule to me was where the balls would hit that would still be considered fair. As long as they hit in fair territory, they could go anywhere and still be considered fair. So you'd have balls with backspin. So as a pitcher, it was freaky too, because like a ball would go beyond me, hit with backspin, and it could shoot across home plate and still be fair. So as a catcher or as a pitcher, you had to be careful and watch. If the ball hit like that, you had to run because you had like a stampede coming up your back. You have like 4 players. You would just hear the footsteps, and you would just be running to get out of the way because they would be trying to field the ball like behind home plate. So I mean that was crazy too. I thought.
Didn't you? Didn't you pitch from 25 feet also instead of 20? Am I correct?
I think originally it was 25, but then I think it was. Yeah, then I think it got moved to 20. I think it was 20 because, I mean, you were right on the foul line to begin with originally. You were right standing. Your heels were on the foul line.
Because your short ball line or fair ball, whatever we call it, the 40-foot line in the NBBA, what was that, 30 feet or 20?
25.
It was 25.
Oh, my goodness. All right.
But you pitched for 21 feet, didn't you, Greg?
Yeah, I think that's right, yep.
One of the other things that I noticed too, excuse me, in our league, we didn't have, I'll just call them like statisticians, and people keeping account of runs and outs and all this other stuff. And so when we go to these tournaments, man, I'm out there like LeBron James batting 750. I got 12, 13 put outs a game or something. I'm just throwing out just crazy numbers. And there was one particular tournament. I think we were in Charlotte, and I played really well. And I'm not even trying to boost my head up or anything, but I played really well. And they gave the most valuable player award to like somebody who, I don't know, they might have batted like 200, got 2 put outs during the whole. Like, I'm like, man, what's going on? But when you go to the World Series, everything is objective, and like, okay, like this person was 25 out of 36, or like they get the award. But back at home, it's like, all right, Come on, man.
Well,
You know
Well,
what
you
though?
know-
I kind of go back and forth on that a little bit because just because somebody at our World Series hit 840 didn't make them the offensive MVP. You know what I mean? They may have just played against bad defenses.
Right, but that also
Not necessarily, but I'm saying it's not.
yeah, for sure.
It doesn't always. It's on defense. Like outfielders don't get that many opportunities. Our
I would say
outfielders.
the defense it's even less representative than offense because it's all about
You have to
play.
play up front to get a lot.
Point taken. I understand that. However, you also aren't dealing with like a bunch of people in this room just trying to figure out like, oh, okay, well, this person, oh, they did this.
Yeah.
Oh, we're gonna
No,
give them
I
an
hear
award.
you. I hear you.
But Lex, you have to know how the most valuable player was picked in our league.
Okay.
That was after the tournament, right after the last game.
Yeah.
All the coaches and the umpires would get together and they all picked a few names and then they took a vote. So, a lot of cases it was a popularity contest more than it was really whether you played good or whether you were any good or not.
I was in there hating. That was a hater's ball. Yeah, I mean,
and there were some people that a lot of those people just really didn't like, so they weren't going to get picked.
Yeah. No, that happened. I mean, you're exactly right. Yeah, people would like in that huddle, you'd throw out names, and people would just be like, no. They would just like walk away and go like, oh, you're like, all right.
My favorite part about the last tournament I went to out there was I don't even know what team she is with, but there is this spotter named Cookie who would sit out there in the outfield yelling at Greg, I sure love being out here. Look at your cute butt. Oh, you got the cutest little butt. I was like, man, you don't get a lot of that at the World Series.
Like during the game too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. All weekend long. All weekend long, man.
I will say the other thing I did like about the Carolina League is that like we actually had a season. So for those 2-3 months, you had, when I was in the league, I think we had 6 or 7 teams. And so you had your schedule. You would go to Spartanburg, and then Charlotte would come up to Raleigh and play, and then Raleigh would go to Greensboro, whoever. So you knew that you were going to play these season games, and then whoever had the best record was going to get the first game bye or first round bye at the tournament and all that other stuff. But yeah, it was just cool to have like an actual, it was something to look forward to. And each time that you played that team, like if we traveled down to Spartanburg, we were going to play 2 games. So you play the first game, we may be the home team, and then the second game, they would be the away team. So that Saturday, you were guaranteed 2 games unless something crazy happened. And yeah, once you got to the tournament, after those 12 or 14 games that you played during the season, you accumulate the records and stuff like that, and then develop the brackets, and you play that tournament. So that was a cool part.
All of those tournaments were sponsored by the healthiest of food sources too. They always had food donated to those 2, even though just when 2 teams were playing, like the home team was responsible for bringing in food. They'd start their day out with Krispy Kremes and then move on to like Burger King.
Bojangles.
Yeah, lunchtime.
Somebody had mac and cheese out there, had KFC out there, mac and cheese, potato wedges, all of that stuff.
But what was funny, like you're joking around about people showing up for food and stuff. I mean, that was part of the camaraderie too. Was like afterwards you'd all sit down and eat together. But then it was funny because like sometimes in the second game, also you get a lot more fans showing up also in the second game because they would join in on the food too.
Oh, you gotta love blind folk.
Blind folk.
You gotta love blind folk. What? Free? What? That don't matter. Free. I'll be there. I'm in.
And then like the other cool thing too, I think, is that like all of from what I recognize, all of the teams were associated with that city's Parks and Rec program. So when I think about some of the World Series teams that have to go and fundraise and to do all of these, like sales and things like that to raise money to go to World Series, although I know it's a larger amount of space, traveling to different places in the country.
Right.
It was cool to have that support from your city Parks and Rec to be able to get from here to here. You didn't even have to worry about trying to pay for this, that, and the third until it was time to go to the tournament.
That's one thing that impressed me from the get when Greg got involved, like how involved the Parks and Recs was, not just with your own team, but all with the teams in South and North Carolina. Like they provided, they're the ones that went out and painted those fields, set up. They provided volunteers for you. I think if I remember right, employees were like required.
All of that.
Yeah.
Like we literally, we would go, like I would get out of school. Me and one of my buddies would, I'm pretty sure his name will pop up here in the show at some point, but me and one of my buddies would catch the bus downtown, go get some food. In the city, the beat ball van would come and pick us up at this centralized location where a lot of people would meet up, and we would go to practice. So we had one practice a week. And then when it was time to go to the games, we would meet up at the Parks and Rec office or wherever the location was. And then we would all get in the van, go to wherever we would go. And at the end of practice and at the end of games, most times they would drop us off at home too. So we didn't have to worry about any of that.
Greg, does that bring back any memories from Sacramento? Anything you're thinking about over there?
Maybe.
Tim, when we first started here in Sacramento with the Thrashers, we were sponsored by the Society for the Blind here in Sacramento, and they provided to all the players transportation to all the practices and bring you home or whatever. But man, some of the drivers were so shady. We were putting our life in some crazy person's hands at times, man. But we can't go that far down the road. Jason, I'd like to ask you real quick before we just all start making fun of Greg. Out of all of us, you're the most recent All-Star. After the Carolina Warriors, you spent a little time with the Thunder, then you went on to the San Antonio Jets, and you haven't played for a few years. But man, I didn't realize, at least I didn't remember it.
Yeah,
You made the All-Tournament team with the Thunder.
I did, 2012.
So
that was in between.
Hey, let them know, man. Let them know.
Yeah.
Well, hold on. Hey, Jason, hold on. Jason, I just got to I just got to point out a fact. Neil likes to be right. I actually made the all-tournament team in 2014. So I was the last. I just say, but go ahead, Jason.
I didn't remember that Jason played with the Thunder before the Warriors. I put that after the Warriors. That's how I screwed that up.
He played back when the Thunder was the lean years of the Thunder.
So, all right. I'll wait till you guys stop talking.
I'm curious to know, like, what's your future looking like, Jason? Are you? I know you stepped away. I know you stepped away because of family and other obligations. But like, are you planning on getting back on the beat ball field? You're a young man.
I'll answer the first question first. So the Carolina team that went to the World Series, we hadn't covered this, I don't think, but so the team that went to the World Series was made up of people from the Carolina League. 2000, Wally, help me out. 2008? No.
Okay. The Pride?
The Carolina, the Pride. And
okay.
I refused to play under that name, so that's why they changed. Not really.
Tell them why.
What's that?
Tell them why.
Tell them why.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Why?
I just didn't like that.
The Carolina Pride, isn't it like a bacon brand or something, a pork brand or something? Is that what it is?
Man, just let the man talk.
I don't know. I was half kidding.
It's all right.
I'm
dead serious. I'm about to Google it right now.
No, you might be right. You might be right. I don't remember that part, but I know. So nobody really liked it, and so we were trying to get serious about it. So that's how the Warriors, 2011, I think was the first year we were Warriors, and finished 8th, Seth, by the way.
Yeah.
So then 2012, we had
admirable
a
finish
picture.
for the
Yeah, ignore him.
Hey, it wasn't too
Ignore him.
We lost our pitcher. We lost our pitcher like 2 weeks before the series. So something crazy like where we had no time to recover. You don't just go pick a pitcher up off the street, right?
Yeah.
So that's how I ended up with Booker. Yeah, I played with Booker, and I don't know how many of those guys are still around. But yeah, and when Booker ran the Thunder, I had a great year. That was my best statistical year. But I made all defense that year.
Very
So,
nice.
Booker.
and then we got Timmy for 2 years. What's that?
So who was that for 3 years? Who did you play with?
We had Tim.
Oh, okay.
We had Tim for 2
right,
years.
that's right.
The last 2 years of the Warriors.
Right.
And that's where really we had trouble keeping enough players, which is sad. So then
I was part of the
away.
problem.
And then I ended up. You were part of the problem. No,
Told you I'd be there, and I failed you. I failed you.
Just the first year. Just the first year when I popped my shoulder out. We had, just the first year.
I'm pulling out while you
that
talk.
was it. And then we
While you talk,
Yeah.
I'm pulling out my Warriors jersey. I'm holding my Warriors jersey up in front of the camera.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Good deal. I'm
Very
wearing my
proud.
Jets jersey.
Jet Live.
Yeah. Jet Life. That's right. I gotta say that. So then I finished up with the Jets. So to answer your other question, I'm done, man.
Really?
I'm too old to be running around diving on the ground. Yeah, I'm too old to be diving on the ground.
You're younger you're younger than Wally, aren't you? How old are you?
No, I'm older than Wally. 45.
No, it's still not bad.
I'm older than Wally.
I'm 52. I'm getting ready to make my
It's not bad.
comeback. Hey, Greg, you remember this one?
Yeah.
What?
Look at that.
Yeah, I do.
Carolina Wild Cards. Any of you, Wally, you hadn't been on the Wild Cards, right?
Well, no, it was just Lex and I think, were the only ones.
Oh,
on the
really?
Wild Cards.
All right. I don't
And
remember.
Barney.
We were going to go play in a tournament in Atlanta or something
Yeah, it was
like
just the New Jersey. I know, it was just the New Jersey that the tournament they have in the East. I mean, yeah.
All right. And it got canceled or something? I don't even remember.
No, it happened.
played.
Yeah, we went and played. Yeah.
I don't know why I
we
didn't
ended-
go
we
out
ended-
there.
we-
I remember I was supposed
ended-
to fly to Charlotte, and you guys were going to pick me up in Charlotte, and we were going to drive someplace from there.
Oh, Neil bailed out on a trip? No.
I don't think I did.
Neil
I didn't
change his mind right
No,
before.
I didn't pay for the ticket, so I had no reason to. I believe Edgerton had set up the ticket for me, so I had no reason to bail out. I think I got bailed out for some reason. I think that it might have been in question going into it. By the way, how pissed off do you think Edgerton's going to be that we didn't invite him on for this? How many angry messages am I going to get? Neil,
No,
this
you'll get
message
it.
is for
Yeah.
Neil.
They'll be left on my voicemail, man.
Excellent. My last jersey, Greg, you remember that? Yeah, that's probably the only Thrasher jersey you have, right? We got different jerseys after
Yeah.
What were the Thrashers' colors?
I was just going to point out,
blue
Neil,
and yellow.
you have a lot of non-sighted people watching.
Oh, that's a good
The
point.
video as you flash all these damn jerseys.
All right.
Remember this?
All right.
Remember that?
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
You're right.
remember this?
Yeah, you're right. Gregory, describe this one.
I was the Carolina Wild Cards, and we had cards. We had like the 4 suits around the number, and then we had like little cards on the sleeve. So yeah.
What color?
We were
is
trying to come up with a name. It's white with and the lettering is like blue going across the front.
All right, let me grab the Warriors jersey. I know it's green.
It's green, yeah, and we use like this Warrior font across the front. It's got like white stripes on the sleeves. But I really liked it because the material it was made out of. It was a good material to like play beat ball in, especially in the heat.
In the old Thrasher jersey I pulled up was what, blue with yellow letters, gold, yellow?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, good enough. We can't wrap this up without telling the story of how Greg almost killed an entire beat ball team.
Wait. Let me fill you in on that, on the rest of that Barney story that you didn't hear. 'Cause this is a key piece of information that always gets left out. Because I know Lex talked about him getting wet, and you talking about the puddle, but the thing was, we were back out on defense, and Barney was on my side, and he was standing up, and he was fine when I saw him, and I turned around, and he was rolling around in that puddle he found, and he got soaking wet, and then he stood up, but he was having uncontrollable body shakes, like he was going into hypothermia. And at that point, he'd already yelled at Benny and I on the sidelines and told him to just leave him alone and stop being his mother and stuff, and he was fine. I was like, fine, whatever, Barney, what do I do? So John Mikowski's the umpire out there, and he comes to me, he's like, hey, I think your man's in trouble. I think something's wrong with me. And he like looked at me like I had no soul in my body. I knew there was like no reasoning with Barney. He was just me Barney. But like John Mikowski looked at me like I didn't care about him as a human being, and I was just like, whatever.
Speaking of no soul in his body, man, Lex, Glenn, Seth Dog, you guys remember 2005 sitting in the van? We're in Houston, and for some reason it seems like Houston has a toll bridge or at least a toll booth.
No, that was me. Yeah, it was me being Tim again, where I took the wrong exit to get up to the field, and so we looped around. We had to go through the stupid toll again, and I was trying to get back on the right track. But yeah, we'd stopped at the toll booth.
I don't know. It seemed like in Houston, even beyond that day, like they have a toll booth every 50 feet out in that city.
It's just the worst city ever to get around.
The only thing that I remember about 2005 in Houston is when Uncle Mike.
No, we'll get to that one. Wait, tell the story we started yet, man.
Hold on. Wait a minute.
I don't remember a damn bit of this.
We already told the story.
For somebody to not have an agenda. We're just going to tell stories. That doesn't even sound like a story. That doesn't even sound like a story.
We're sitting at this toll booth, and Greg didn't have any money to pay it. And he turned. We're 15-passenger van. We're coming home from a practice. The World Series hadn't started yet. We're coming back from a practice, and like I know my wallet was in my bat bag in the very back or whatever. And Greg's like, "Man, guys, I need money for the van." He even snapped on us, man, Mr. Nice Guy Greg. Like, look, all you blind people, don't sit on your wallet right now. I need to pay the booth. So there's no money being thrown forward. Nobody has money. So he gets out of the van and goes all the way to the back of this 15-passenger van loaded with people.
It's Seth is sitting in the passenger seat.
Yeah, it's Seth's up front and his co-pilot, and all of a sudden the van starts rolling. We're on the freeway, man. The van starts rolling with no driver in the dang driver's seat, man.
I don't even remember this.
I have no memory of this whatsoever.
Wow.
And it was an elevated highway, and Mark jumped from back on the bench. He jumped from the back on the bench seat and grabbed the emergency brake and pulled it, because I jumped out with it and drive is what happened. I left it drive and jumped out to go to the back to get my money.
Yeah, I'm questioning the validity of
and
this.
I didn't even know anything about it until I came back to the front.
I know when my life is on the line.
Why?
No, I came back to the
Why?
I came back to the front.
Go ahead.
I came back to the front, and then everybody told me, because I paid, because I was still like, I can't believe nobody had any money. And I came back to the front, and they were like, you left the van in drive when you jumped out, right? And so I was just laughing when we were driving away. I was like, if that van would have taken off and it would have got off that elevated highway and crashed, it was like, but we went on the news, it's been like, the driver was found like 3 miles away in a bar drinking when they found it.
I just got out of the van for a second. I don't know what happened. Next thing I know, van's over there.
I was like, that would have been all over the news, like that bridge collapsing in Minnesota. Been like, van full of players crashes off the side of the highway and still driving.
Now, in all fairness, if you're going to tell the Uncle Mike stories, it might be the funniest thing, but we gotta give a little background on that. We can't just Uncle Mike didn't just snap on us because he didn't like Seth and I or you or anybody else. There's a lot that led up to that. So the 05 tournament was the first tournament that we played on the Dogs without Danny and Eric. They chose to go play with Kansas, and as time went on, man, it just didn't. It just didn't set. It didn't set well with Seth and I, and we ran our mouth at that 05 tournament every chance we got. And once we were knocked out, since we were not that good of a team, and Kansas made it to the championship game, our only interest was rooting against Kansas at that point.
One of the most fun championship games.
In the morning of the championship game, our team, once we got knocked out, we went to Partyville. So that Saturday morning, we had absolutely no plans, Seth and I, of going to any stupid championship game and watching. Kansas was playing Taiwan. And we had no plans of watching it. And Seth and Christina and I are coming back from breakfast, and we run into you, Greg and Lex. I don't know who all was with you. And you guys had run into Uncle Mike, who was just flat tired of Seth and I running our mouths by that point. And
Jonathan, we had drug Jonathan out.
Yeah, Jonathan Lyons, another Carolina man. And so Uncle Mike sees you guys. He's like, man, if you come to the championship game, leave your effing animals on a chain. And Seth and I are like, what? They don't want us there? I guess our plans just changed. And that game, that ended up being one of those, they had to play 2 games. And for 2 games, Seth and I sat out there, and Lex and Jonathan, and we sat out there and just rooted as loud as we were. So obnoxious that at some point John Parker went to the umpires like, you have to make them stop. It's like, they can't make, they're not, we weren't cussing. We weren't, you know what I mean?
I had Trajan with me. I mean,
Trajan was like a little 1-year-old baby. Yeah.
So I had Trajan in my arms, man, cheering for the Taiwan team and stuff. Man, go Taiwan!
and the Taiwan group believed that we were just totally, it was in our hearts at the end of it. Their volunteers are coming up, giving us hugs for being so supportive. Thank you because the year before that, they made the championship game, and the league turned on them, man. They were chanting USA, USA. Nobody wanted Taiwan to win that. It's Seth and I brought a whole different environment to the 05 championship. Man, what happened with you and Greg? Lex, Greg, you guys beyond all our yelling, you guys had a little run in at the end.
Bro, because I was out there yelling. Like, I was literally yelling at the top of my lungs, get them! Get like every chance I could. And so the game finally ends and Taiwan wins. And Greg, Jonathan, and I.
You weren't just yelling. You were standing over there and you
jumping up
like long ability to jump.
Oh yeah.
Up. So you were really obvious.
I was doing cartwheels. I just needed some pom-poms.
I was like, man, like you were standing out like a billboard.
My parents were disgusted with me. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
You were talking.
No, I was gonna let. Oh, my bad. So anyway, we walk across. Yeah. So they've done like the shake hands and all this other stuff, and we were going over to congratulate them because in my head I was just like, even though I wanted Kansas to lose, it's just a game to me. At the end of the day, that's me.
Yeah.
And so we get over there, obviously, to Uncle
You went
Mike
over to congratulate Eric and Danny. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. And to them, it wasn't just a game. And obviously to Uncle Mike, because when to Neil
and I, it was not just a game either.
That 05 wasn't just a season to us. A chapter of our life.
But I'm just telling you from my perspective, like I was just like, all right, well, cool. I mean, I'm like at the end of the day, we're gonna go back, we're gonna have a good time, whatever. But when we had gotten over there, and I don't know, Greg, you're gonna have to fill in the blanks, but I don't know if I said something or was about to say something. But Uncle Mike was just like, "What?" Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I know it's fine because Eric was on the ground, like putting his stuff in his bag, and he just kind of looked down because of the game and stuff. And I just went over, was like, "Hey," just talking to him, and you were with me because of course I was guiding you and stuff. And then then Uncle Mike saw us. But we didn't say anything to him. But yeah, go ahead.
I can't hear. I'm trying to remember what exactly he said. What Like, what are you doing
No,
over
it's just
here?
a really quiet kind of type voice where he came over. He's like, "What are you doing over here? What are you doing? You're over there jumping up and down." You know, and Steve was like, "What are you doing here?" And you at first you were just smiling because you thought he was just kind of messing around with you and stuff.
Yeah.
But then like,
I'm what am I? I'm
like
like 19. I'm like 19, 20 years old, man. I'm like,
right.
Come on, bro.
Anyway. that whole tournament was pretty crazy. Seth and I have admitted later, we might have been a little over the top.
But no, you can tell it just dawned on both of us. We're like, yeah, we need to leave right now.
We don't have to go home, but we got to get from here.
We are in enemy territory, man. Just thinking of it still irritates me. But it was a joyous day. It was a joyous day. It was a day of celebration.
I got none but love for Uncle Mike.
And all I can say is thank you, Hobby Airport, for changing your air traffic patterns. Else, I don't think Taiwan would have won that game. Because remember, there were all sorts of airplane delays.
I don't
right?
remember that.
They had to keep calling timeout. Right? They had to. I'm sure you guys don't, but at that field,
you're right.
As it got into the afternoon, they changed the air traffic patterns. And so there had to keep being all these timeouts. And it broke up Kansas's like rhythm. They were doing, I don't know if it was the end of the first game or the end of the second game. They were like coming back. And it just broke up their rhythm, but it also gave us time in these timeouts to just go on and on and on and on and on, man.
You gotta make them stop.
It was great, man.
Yeah, plus we're all aligned on the third base side too, kind of like on a certain part of the field where somewhere, that's
yeah, exactly, right. Good stuff.
Jason, Wally, Glenn, man, before we wrap this all up, do you guys have any stories to tell that will make Greg look bad?
No, I
Wally,
definitely got a story.
tell us some more of those forgetting about the X's and O's stories.
Nah, it ain't like that. You know,
Wally, you said you got a story?
I definitely got a Greg story. I remember playing in the North Carolina, South Carolina League. I had to be, 17 years old, my second year playing, and it's like, it's in the middle of July, and the other
thing they have to know about our league, like there's no 12-run rule. So
yeah. There's no 12-run rule, none of that. So it's in the middle of July, and it's a close game to the bottom of the third when they come up to bat, and just all of a sudden, I mean, the inning just I could still hear the bats cracking off the ball, just bam, bam, bam. Greg is hot, and my mom, when we finally come to sit down, I got grass stains, sweat through my shirt. And she you can't play this game because they done had y'all in the field for over 40 minutes. And all I can hear is Greg he's like, dude, I'm not trying to pitch the ball to you. We're just, the ball just bounces that way, man. Just keep trying.
Yeah, because they thought I was targeting him somehow. Like, there's no way I'm doing that,
man. Wally, Greg don't talk like that, man. He's not trying to bounce the ball.
Yeah, they had to drop like 20 runs, but that's just our league. You just got to make the plays. But, I never forget that because Greg is just trying to be quiet and supportive, but he's like, yeah, we whooping y'all ass.
Greg doesn't have a lot of cocky to him. At least not outwardly.
Right.
Well, there was a year. So when I started playing, it might have been my second year. So Durham Greg was pitching. They had Lex, they had Glenn, and they had Keith. Well, that's three of the West Coast dogs.
Man.
I mean,
yeah.
And so they we had a game. I think it was in it might have been in the tournament. They beat us like we stole something, and it was just like that. It was just boom, boom.
I'm just saying, Dad.
I'm playing short. I started to pull up a chair because everything was going over my head. I was just taking up space. But and Keith hit one. And I was like, man, they are killing us. And Greg, where'd that land? Was that a home run? Just nice and quiet. Rub it in, sir. That's why I knew Moses.
Yeah, that's something Seth probably forgot, man. They call him Moses out in Carolina.
I remember Moses.
They call him Moses.
Not until he said it, though. I would not have been able to figure that out.
No, it was something happened like early on when I first started
from Moses to Grounder Greg, man.
Backtrack. That's a major backtrack.
There's one player for Raleigh though that he had pegged the previous pitcher really bad, and so now when he was just striking out all the time because the other pitcher just was like, he just did not want to, like, he just got intimidated by Charles's bat, and so and that pitcher had gone away when I started, and so I just was pitching to Charles in practice, and he was hitting the ball, and everybody was just freaking out and like happy Charles was hitting, and it just became like a joke that like Charles had been lost in the desert, all these years and stuff. And now all of a sudden, like, I found him, and they're like, "You found him?" And he's like, Moses, you found him. So it was just a joke in practice, I was like, "Oh yeah, that's funny," And so it was just a joke in practice. And then all of a sudden, the next game, it was all like Moses. And I was like, "Yeah, okay, whatever." Then but I didn't find out until years later. There were people in the league that thought that was my name.
I thought your name was Moses until I got to know.
And then
was this Greg? Is that Charles
like
Walker?
we're in the Charles, yeah.
Okay.
And then being in the South and being in the Bible Belt, like there were some early games where like we were playing and like there was all these ladies there that were there, like mothers and like relatives of the players from the other team, and they're just like, they're blaspheming. That's blasphemy. I was like, I do not want to get into this. Because people on our sideline are yelling about tablets and stuff and all these things, and like, just oh man, they just like went all in on this whole Moses thing.
Seth talks about the transition for going from being praised like that to ground ball Greg. It was a transition going to Moses because my dad used to call him strikeout. I told the story on this show with when we had the Indy Edge on the show, because their pitcher Kyle Kennedy, he's only like 20, but he's a big fan of the history of the league, and a guy that's no longer with us that Seth and I played with, Johnny Guzman, one of the NBBA's great athletes of all time. When we played against Johnny Guzman for the first time as the Sacramento Thrashers, he was on the East Bay Blaze, and they whooped us pretty bad. And then there was like a league board meeting like 2 days later that Greg and I went to. Right. And I'm sitting next to Greg, and Johnny Guzman's sitting across the table from us, and Johnny and I are talking. He's like, "Man, you guys got a lot of promise, but that pitcher." I'm like, "Hey, why don't you let me introduce him? His name's Greg. He's right here." to go for that, and my dad called him strikeout. My dad was just like me. He's a dick. So he made Eric and Seth used to call him Ralph Mouth and his father. So my dad and I run our mouth a lot alike, and so my dad do that.
Did your father used to umpire?
Yeah, he was an umpire in our local games. You and your family weren't big fans of his umpire.
Yeah, no, I don't think my father was a big fan of that either.
I remember. my dad called Greg strikeout was just to tease him. Greg was always been a solid pitcher or whatever. But man, to go from all the we're harsh towards you, to go from that to Moses, you no wonder you never moved out of North Carolina. Speaking
Yeah,
of,
it's funny 'cause you
go ahead.
you get to know all the up people and stuff who are behind you, the short people. But yeah, I just remember the first time when we played when Seth was playing, but like it was just I can't like duplicate the intonation, but like yeah, you were behind me, Seth, and like whenever I would like get a strike, against one of our guys.
That's the way you do it, pitcher.
Like,
that's the way you do it.
It was like every time, and I was like, "Who is this guy out here, man?"
Dude was only like 15. He was 6'3". He's bigger than all of us. It's like, man, can't you do nothing about it?
I used to be a little bit vocal in my younger days. I used to talk a little trash. Just all good fun,
Back then, he wasn't the quiet, polite one that he is now that you've all experienced tonight.
Yeah, exactly.
What but thinking about the Carolina League, like what is the league right now? Do they still play beat ball in Carolina, or is it?
Disconnected. Did they ever? Ouch.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, I'm just joking. Jason.
Because I mean, it's literally like I haven't played played in the Carolina League since like 2009, maybe 2010, maybe.
Right, Jason, you might Wally, any of you, Glenn?
I mean, as far as the league, getting back together, I don't know anything about that, but we were close to getting a couple of guys, together before, the whole COVID thing started happening in March, just to, just play some friendly games in Raleigh. But, that kind of fell through, at the end. But, it's still kind of hit and miss. But, there's still conversations. And, hopefully, we can get things back going, in a direction where we can get some games being played back here.
Yeah,
because it's some good ball. It's some good ball players.
Be great if you guys, had enough to have like an interstate tournament again, like you used to. Right. Jason, were you go add in on all that?
No. The last year, the officially was 2012. Was the last tournament we had here. So.
Yeah. I thought it was more recent than that. I had no idea it went back that far. That's sad. Is it? Like Glenn said, man, there were 9, 10 teams at one point.
I mean, literally, we used to play.
Go
ahead, Jason. Go ahead. Jay?
Go ahead, man.
No, sorry, it's a Zoom thing, but go ahead.
You have to take turn.
All right, sorry to jump on you. Where I saw it directly impact was the lack, like what Lex said, when you're playing 2-3 months and you're playing not every other weekend, but you're playing a lot of ball. It really helps with your rhythm and practice. Yeah. And so the guys that do go. Like I saw it, just you get out of rhythm, right? Just playing. So that's the guys and Wally, I guess you're our last representative at the NBBA, and you got the guys that what is it? So that's all. So 2012 was the last year. Go ahead, Wally. What you saying?
Wow.
Yeah, it's just when we played, we would play probably the beginning of May till the middle of August.
Yeah.
So it was definitely a grind. And I mean, we had teams from Raleigh to Charleston and, hopefully, we can, get things back going and incorporate, some of the things that we've learned because we picked up a lot from, just having, the experience and learning from a lot of people who have experience in the NBBA. So I think that, if we can get some kind of footing and some kind of tracking, we can, make a more of a marriage of combining, rules that we had to what the NBBA does and, and not only build up our league, but possibly, hopefully, bring more teams into, the NBBA as well.
Yeah, heck yeah.
Man, so, hey, we need Moses to come down from the mountaintop with his staff and his tablets and get this thing back going again. It's been 8 years, bro. You got to get this thing going.
But yeah, but Neil, like it's I mean, I've had this discussion with people at the tournament too. They talk about like sometimes it's just like 1 or 2 volunteers or a small group.
Yeah.
There's people like you lose those people, then the whole team just goes. yeah, I mean,
Right.
it's usually like a couple of people just driving it and keep, doing all the logistical stuff,
Yeah,
all the stuff that's behind the scenes and stuff. Because everybody wants to play. I mean, it's good to get, I don't think it's too hard to get people out in the field and doing stuff. It's just all the other stuff that goes with that.
Yeah, I mean, I've preached that for years, talking about the sport. When teams want to get a program going, it's like I try to prepare people that you just need to. If you're going to be the leader of this group, don't expect everybody be on the same page with you all the time. You know what I mean? Every team, has a few people that do the majority of the work. And it's not like on any of the teams they usually get appreciated for it. And you just have to have people that are, not in for the appreciation or notoriety. You're just doing it because you want to make sure you have a team. You know what I mean? Without that, no program takes off, I don't think. Yes, no, maybe so. We lose our connection.
And here, like Lex was saying, a lot of it was Parks and Rec, and I know at least here in Raleigh, like they were always being hit hard by the budget and seeing if there were people involved. So I mean, I don't even think it's even part of their budget at this point, except for some other activities. So I mean, that becomes a big challenge too sometimes, like when you're supported that way, and if they step away, like trying to figure out how you're going to keep it going. So.
Well, before we sign out of here, and this is the last show we're going to do until December 6th. So we're taking Thanksgiving weekend off. But before we get out of here, man, do you guys, all of you as a group, got any parting words of wisdom before we get out of here? North Carolina, NBBA wise, world wise? The only one that can't mention the election, Seth. The rest of you have pretty much free reign.
Oh, we've already heard quite enough from North Carolina in this election, so we don't need to hear anymore. We know where y'all stand.
North Carolina has nothing to do with this final result. It's very much in the bag from what I can tell. Anyway.
Yeah, that was my bad. I really meant nobody could talk about the election.
Yeah.
Now, any party words? Any words of wisdom, Mr. Wally, before we go? Wally, I got a question for you. Do you know you're still in our fantasy football league?
Am I?
I didn't think so. I didn't think so, man. The pigskin Pippin, isn't that the name of Wally's team? He's been in our league for 10 years. When's the last time you knew that? You need a new email address to get to Greg?
Look, if I win.
Oh,
I mean, yeah, you've got some good games and stuff. That's why I thought you were still like checking it, because like you win. You win games. So I thought you were changing your lineup, but yeah.
Oh, no. I got
he hasn't played in a decade, and you guys haven't figured this out?
No, the league. We've had the league for a decade. We've had the league for a decade, but I started thinking, I don't think Wally's been paying attention. And you know what sucks about that? I looked at the standings today. Wally and I are tied for dead last, and I'm working at it. I'm trying to do good.
Neil, who's in first place?
Who's my first what?
Who's in first place?
I think you are, aren't you?
I think you're correct. Okay.
Yeah,
I think you are. Ever since, I wanted to lecture Greg because we don't, Greg doesn't let blind people pick for themselves. He makes us do an auto draft. Blind people can't pick their own fantasy football team. Greg doesn't let us draft our own teams. No, and ever since Jason came in the league, ever since we got Jason in the league, you give him a good team every year. Every year, you give me crap. Just saying.
He was like he stopped because he was getting trashed all the time, and I was like, "Come on back, Jason." So yeah,
you know what sucks, dude? You know how it sucks? This guy Lex is gonna make the playoffs, and he don't pay no more attention to it than Wally has.
Hey, I resent that.
All right, you pay attention?
When the notifications pop up on my phone, that's about it.
All right.
Yeah.
None of you, Josh and Greg and I have been trying to pick up the trash talk, and no.
Oh,
Well,
Josh.
Jason jumped in with us. Jason's jumping in.
Josh, the catcher, the old catcher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yo,
Yeah.
how is he
Josh
doing?
McIntyre.
That's funny. Lex don't even know he's in the league.
Bruh, I did not know.
You know that team, Prox Pragnac. What is it?
Pratt.
That's prognosticator.
Yeah, that's Josh, man.
Yeah.
Yo, that's so crazy, man.
That's funny.
So he's good.
He tried. I mean, as best he can. Like everybody trashed me a couple of years ago because I gave him Seattle's defense at a really bad time, and then he went on to like destroy everybody, and everybody was like, "Yeah, I never hear the end of that." About like, I can't remember. I haven't checked the standings this week. So yeah.
No.
I
Are
don't
you
think
gonna
he's doing
tell me is he doing good as a human being?
Yeah. He is doing good as a human being. Like,
yeah. Oh, okay. Fantasy football. All right, cool.
Yeah. Josh is doing good.
I've got an important question to ask all of you guys, everybody except Greg. And this is my final question of the night. Greg, well, first I got to ask you, when did you get married? What year you get married?
Oh.
Greg?
It would have been like 2015.
All right, so Greg's been married for 5 years now. I've known the guy 35 years, but Greg's been married now for 5 years. Have any of you met his wife? Jason?
Nope.
Glenn?
I have.
You have?
Yeah, Wally has. Yeah, Alexis has.
Wally?
Wally both have.
You met her, Wally?
One time, I think when I went to your house.
So have you each only met her once, so it still could be like he hired somebody to say that's his wife? Is he really married? Jason, you got anything?
I've not met her.
Yeah, see? Jason ain't met her. Glenn, you met her? Yeah, you probably, Glenn didn't even know he's going around saying he's married now, did you, Glenn?
No, I heard he got married, but I haven't seen him or her.
You better let your wife hear this.
2015, wasn't that right after the gay marriage thing got passed?
not North Carolina.
That might be why he has to have a stand-in when his buddies come over.
Lex, have you met her more than once?
I have.
More than once?
Yeah, I have, yeah.
It's the same woman each time. I wish I could show you and Wally a picture, see if it's the same woman. But I gotta, all right, I'm gonna trust you're married, Gregory. But I've never even heard her voice when we're talking on the phone.
He said thank you.
I know she was running through here while we were talking and stuff. I just told her I had this thing going on, so she's trying to be quiet and keep quiet too.
All right.
I know, but I was gonna say one last thing. Like if you're going around the horn, the only thing I would say is like I remember like a long time ago we did like a video shoot for the Thrashers. And like you were standing under a tree, and you were the last person in the interview.
Oh,
and they asked you about beatball. And wait, no. And you said like, and you're like, I live and die for this game. And everybody was like ragging on you, making fun, like, what the heck was that, man? And but like now, all these years later, like after we went to the World Series stuff, I was like, oh man, like that guy was serious, man. He is really serious. Like he is hardcore on this game.
I thought you were going to bring up.
It was like he hadn't played that one.
I thought you were going to bring up, because there was a junior college here locally that tried making beat balls for a while. And so we did a thing with them. Like we did, like, just went out and did some hitting and fielding or whatever, so that and the news came out and they're, bragging up this ball. And the news reporter was asking me, it's like, what would this game, without the ball, what would happen? It's like, there would just be no game. That would just make me cry. Or so I said something about without the game, I'd just cry. And you guys, that's the one I remember you guys laying into me about.
Do it hurt your little feelings?
Yeah, the only other thing I remember about you saying you'd live and die for this game was then the fallout afterwards, because Russ was not called to let him know about this video shoot that was going on.
I don't even remember that. I Oh, you remember
Yeah,
that?
you got
You know
that,
our
'cause, like,
boy Russ?
we had a,
He works
I
at,
was gonna say, is that the boy
Yeah.
Russ I know?
yeah.
yeah,
Craig, you know where
we had a,
Russ has been working for like the last 25 years? He
No.
works at UC Davis. He's in charge of the disabled
man.
student service. Like he's the top dog. I just ran into him like a year ago. He's still out there doing
Man.
it. Yeah, so the guy we made
No, I
fun
just
of the
remember
most got the best job out of all of us.
I just remember we had to throw people together at that park, like, you know, almost close to West Sacramento, just to get this thing together, like at noontime. And then Reggie cranked that ball next to the camera, like it almost took the camera out, and they were like all excited because that was such a great shot. We were all like standing with our eyes wide open, like, you don't know how lucky you just were that you just didn't kill you with that ball. Like they thought somehow we did it on purpose, and we were like, no, that was just kind of random luck.
Speaking of players that looked out their blindfold from the side, just saying. Reggie wasn't considered to be the most honest of hitters. Glenn Dog, man, before we let you go to sleep, you got any final words, dude? You've been around the longest.
It's freaking 8 o'clock, man. He ain't going to bed. I know he's 90 years old, man. But
the clocks are going off. Tell me it's past my bedtime. Yeah.
Are you one of those people that sets an alarm to tell yourself when to go to bed?
I have to. I can't remember.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
All I got to say is it's just really nice to get together with you guys again and hear all these old stories and memories about beat ball. And there's probably been more good memories about beat ball than most anything else that I've done throughout all these years. And I wish I could still be doing it, but I finally gave it up, and I can't convince myself that I need to get back out there, even though Donna tries to talk me into
it. She just liked having Saturdays to herself.
Well, I want to go to a tournament.
She says she wants to go to the World Series.
I do.
She wants to go to the World Series again, and I said, well, you know, if I go to the World Series, I can't go sit on the bench. So, you see, we haven't been to the World Series.
My feelings exactly, Glenn.
You know, Glenn was with us when we won a lot of championships, and he played 90% of the time. But 99 when we won our first one, he didn't hardly get any playing time. And I'll never forget. Like I didn't even want to be around. Like go up and say how you doing, because like every day it's like, hey Glenn, how you doing? I'm fine. I'm bored stiff. I'm bored stiff. Dude told me bored stiff. Like I was embarrassed him for having come play with our team, man. We bored him to death, but we got him back. Got him back in the mix. You know,
Glenn, I you know that always made a big impression on me. That 99 and watching you there and stuff like that. And I thought about that a lot last time I was at the World Series when I wasn't playing at all or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, man, you know, I'm bored stiff. I need to get the hell out of here, man. I'm done. I can't do this shit.
It's not much fun to go sit on the bench, I tell you.
It is not.
Yeah.
And nothing more non-fun than sitting on the bench at a freaking beat ball game, man.
Not when you're like I've always been. Who was it? Wali mentioned not worrying about the X's and O's, but I don't remember that part of the game.
Man, Jason said he.
I roomed. Yeah.
I was just gonna say real quick. Be quiet. Jason said I'll let him in. Jason had said that he was too old to play at 45. Man, this dude Glenn in 2003 made the offensive all-star team at like 50 years old. Man, it's too old to play. Be quiet over there. What do you want to say, Greg?
I played 40 years from the time I started when I was 19 and quit when I was 59.
Man. That's a good round.
No, I was gonna say it was like, yeah, I roomed with Glenn during that tournament you're talking about. So yeah.
The 99 tournament.
we come back to the room and I was like, trying to talk to Glenn about stuff going on. And it was like, But yeah, like being like having, like I said, that you get to know the short people on each team, like the person up behind you more than anybody else. So like I would see Glenn all the time when we'd play him, and so like he'd make a good play, and I was like, oh, good play, and he would just kind of roll the ball to me and walk away and roll the ball. And like originally, I thought like he was a total complete psycho. I was like, man, what's with this guy? Like he's just crazy, you know? Like I don't know what's going on with him, because he wouldn't talk to me or say anything, and I was like, man, he's just like there's something off with this guy. But then when like after he joined us, I was like, I was like completely like had this opinion of him or this how he was, but he's just like super hardcore when he's on the field. But I'm like, man, Glenn is like pretty amazing person. He's really nice and stuff. But yeah, I never would have thought that before we started playing together and stuff. Because like I would ask Ricky about that, like, what's going on with him, man? Is that guy all right? He's like, oh, he's just Glenn. That's all right.
Beatball wise, we always looked at that dude as an Iron Man. I mean, Glenn just showed up, played the innings he was asked to play. He didn't complain about this hurting, that, you know what I mean? He never tweaked nothing. If he did, he didn't tell nobody. Glenn Dog, you were an Iron Man. You're an Iron Man out there.
Because even in that Charlotte game, or that tournament you came to, Neil, he took a line drive right to the face, and like his nose got all busted up and was bleeding all over the place. We're like, oh man, we got to take Glenn out. So we had him, he was laying down on the bench and had like a towel and other stuff on his face, and he was bleeding out. And then, you know, they were scoring, and they were like, Spartanburg was scoring and scoring us. And I just remember Glenn like sitting up and thinking like, oh, I got to go back in there. I got. He was getting so disgusted with like the defense. He's like, we're like, okay, Glenn.
It was Spartanburg, and they had scored about 5 or 6 runs. I said, no, it's time for me to go back out there. But we were talking earlier about all the trash talk that everybody used to do. I used to get so sick of that. I mean, I'd tell my team members, I say, just don't pay any attention to all that mess. Just get out here and play, and don't be hollering at them and taunting them and all that stuff. I mean, just play.
Well, we have to agree to disagree.
It's no fun to play if you're not going to tell your opponent how much better than them you are.
I gotta say though, as I got older, that it wore me out to put much energy into, you know, just stuff that, other than playing or whatever. As I got older, it got hard for me to put a lot of energy into trash talking. And by the end of the game, I was like, man, wore me out just running my mouth that whole time. Well, fellas, I really appreciate everybody taking time out to do this. I know it's later on the East Coast over there. I know
it's past 9 o'clock.
With 8 of us on here, it's hard to give everybody equal time. I hope
especially when Neil talks most of the time.
I know. But you know, I appreciate you guys doing this. I had a lot of fun. I hope the NBBA crowd got to know a little bit more about the Carolina leagues. Period.
Yeah, no.
Cricket.
No, I didn't know if you were going to continue on there.
No,
I was talking to my mom about, you know, our last show with Danny Fabiano and all that. She's like, oh, you know, I love it when you guys just start telling old beatball stories and stuff like that. So I think she will have enjoyed. Not that she knows the Carolina League or whatever, but beatball is beatball. So I've enjoyed this episode, and I'm sorry, you know, if I talked a little trash at the beginning of it and stuff like that.
No, I just figured it was all quiet because we were waiting for you to put the final nail in the coffin, man.
No, I wasn't. I mean, we are about, you know, we're ready to wrap it up, but I wanted to give you guys a chance to say your goodbyes or whatever.
Yeah, you know what? I just want to say, going back to the 7-person lineup, man, somebody in the NBBA, y'all think about it. Just consider it. Try it out. See how it works. You might be able to come up with some really dynamic and different defenses, and who knows, man.
Just put thought into it. Be smart, be safe, you know, do it the way you would with 6. Just, you know, plan it out.
Yeah.
Jason, Wally, any closing words? We'll go to you first, Wally. You got any closing words for us?
Well, you know, oh, hold on, y'all. Sorry about the noise.
You're good. We
But,
hear you fine. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, not just Greg and Glenn, being pioneers for our league, man. We never get a chance to, thank you guys for that, because I wouldn't have learned the game if it wouldn't have been for you guys showing us. So, I appreciate y'all, and thank you for you, Neil, for giving us opportunity to get out here and talk about the game we love, because like you said, it's all beat ball, it's all
right.
one family. So I appreciate it,
Very welcome. I'm glad. Loved having you on. It was a good time. We'll do some, we're gonna keep this thing going, so we'll keep going around. So your Titans will get some more love. So we'll probably see you some more down the road, Mr. Wali.
Tighten up, baby.
Tighten up, y'all. Mr. Jason, you got anything for us going out?
Two things. Jet Life and
Boo, boo.
no,
Jet lag.
yeah, thanks. I appreciate the time, Neil. It's great catching up, everybody. So hope everybody stays safe.
Absolutely. And that goes for everybody, just keep being smart and safe out there. Wear your mask, be considerate. Everybody enjoy the Thanksgiving weekend, even though it's going to be different for everybody, I'm guessing. I'm spending Thanksgiving right here by myself. I recommend it to my family. We don't get together. My dad's 93. I don't think it's a good idea for us to risk him for the holiday. So I know not just me, it's going to be different for everybody, but everybody find a way to enjoy your Thanksgiving. I'm thankful to all the people that have been listening to this show. Not sure how we were able to get some people to stay on with us, but I really love that you do. I'm thankful for our audience. I'm thankful for Beat Ball Nation for giving us a platform, a place to put this show out there. Seth Dog, you got any closers?
No.
No? All right. Excellent. All right.
He got all of his out of the way.
Yeah, right. I've been talking for the last hour and a half. Man. No.
Fair enough. All right, everybody.
Hold on. Hey, everybody stay safe. Remember you don't want to be like Scott Atlas to have this be your last Thanksgiving. So in the end, stay home.
Wow.
That's what the guy said. You might as well invite your everybody over, because it's going to be the last Thanksgiving for a lot of people. Like, God, man, why are you saying that?
Come on.
That's a guy in charge of this stuff.
You did better at no.
I'm sorry. I keep trying. You told me the other day, Neil Dog, that you are a political animal now. That you sit there and watch CNN all the time.
Just that week, once Pennsylvania came through, I turned CNN off. And I was glued to this couch for 4 days, and I'm not a political person. That was a crazy time in my life. I slept on this couch. CNN running 24 hours a day. It was crazy. All right, everybody. We will see you in a couple of weeks. Be smart, safe, and enjoy your Thanksgiving. Good night, Aunt Cindy.